Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Horton Common, and today we're talking about signals. Well, this is the one you've been asking for. Many people have said they needed the principles of signalling explained and what signals do because they don't know. So here we go. As you can see, we have 4 semaphore signals here. We are going to be dealing with absolute block, which is a signal regulation. It used to be block regulation 4. Anyway, absolute block. The definition of it is that it allows one train to be in one section on one line at one time. That way, collisions cannot or should not occur. So then, let's have a look at the signals involved. First one, a distance signal, which is not going to focus. There we are. So what is a distance signal? It's a rectangular arm, yellow. It has a fishtail end and a black chevron. From the rear, the signal arm is white and it has a black chevron. Now, I'm pointing to get this into focus because it won't. There we are. No, still won't do it. The biggest mistake I have seen on model railways, and it really makes me cringe, is there being a fantastic layout with either no signals and everything is done by telepathy. I'd love to know how the drivers manage that one. And the signalman just sits in a box, drinks tea and watches TV because he's got no signals to operate. The second one is signals in the wrong place. And the one that drives me absolutely bonkers is the one where people have a terminal station and they use a distance signal as the first signal. No! No! And another one that annoys me are the colours on model form signals. A distance signal cannot stop a train. Let me repeat that. A distance signal cannot stop a train. It is there purely as an advisory to the driver to be prepared to stop at the next stop signal. These aspects painted on the signal are wrong. A distance signal does not have a red aspect. It does not have it. In real life, if you go out, you will see that that lens is blue. Well, yellow, sorry, not blue. That is yellow. That one is blue. Remember that a lot of these are still oil lit, so that it's a yellow flame. So a yellow flame behind a yellow lens will produce a yellow aspect, which is exactly what that one should be displaying now, a yellow aspect. When it's cleared to the off position, the blue will reflect as green because of the yellow light. Okay? So that should not be red. That should be yellow. It is a cautionary signal. So what is the point of a distance signal? Well, a distance signal is the first signal operated by a specific signal box for the area. It cannot stop a train. The amount of times I have seen model railways and a train pull up to the signal and stop and wait for it to go? No. In that position, you can pass that signal. You're not doing anything wrong. It's a cautionary signal. You can go past it like that, or you can go past it like that. But they've both got two different meanings. In that position, it means be prepared to stop at the next stop signal, which is that one there. Okay, now the distance between this signal and this signal is determined by the speed of the line. This signal, the distance, is placed at the full service braking distance from there to the first stop signal. So if this was a 30-mile-an-hour branch line, it wouldn't be that far away from that. If this was a 70-mile-an-hour line, this signal would be further away. The faster the speed, the further away this signal is. The driver must be able to apply the brakes to full service and stop in time before that signal. So that's very important. Okay, so what else have we got? As you can see, we've got three other home signals. So what's a home signal? Well, let's move that one out and bring the home signal in. So there it is, a home signal. It is a rectangular red arm with a white square, and it displays a red and a green aspect. In real life, it would be a red aspect there, a red glass, and a blue glass there. This is in the danger position. From the back, it's a white arm with a black square. So that differentiates a home signal from a distance signal. Now the stop signal does exactly what it says on the tin. It can stop a train, and you must stop at it if it is in that position. Okay, right, so we put the signal back. Now let's explain how it all works. So I'm going to give you a little scenario. This is set up as if we were on a branch line, just going one direction. It would be 2 track, but I've only got 1 track. Okay, so you'll have to imagine there's another track the other side. But this way, so what we've got the distance signal. We've got the outer home. We've got the home signal or starter. And at the far end, we have what's known as the section signal. Now then, driver comes up and he sees this signal at caution. So he slows down. This signal clears. Hopefully, it's not weighted. And he can proceed into the platform. Okay, Jamie. Next signal, protecting the level crossing, which isn't there. That can be cleared. This will go back to danger. And then when he gets to the next signal, providing it is clear for him to proceed, that signal will show proceed. And there we are. Signal to the rear goes back to danger. Train passes, off he goes. When he's passed, that goes back to danger as well. So then, supposing the driver comes round the corner and sees a signal like that. What does that mean? Well, on its own like that, that can, never will, is impossible to happen. Because this signal is interlocked with all the stop signals. So this cannot ever happen. only way that signal can be cleared is by the home signal, the starting signal, and the section signal being in the clear position. Only when all the stop signals have been cleared can this signal, which is interlocked, be released and pulled off to the clear position. If a driver sees this, he knows that every signal after this, every stop signal, is in the clear position. He has a clear run. But he must be prepared to apply the emergency brake should the signal go back to danger, which it can do in an emergency. It doesn't mean his responsibilities are lessened. It just means at that moment of time, every stop signal for that respective signal box is in the clear position. They are pulled off and he can proceed without having to reduce speed. So that is how block signalling works. Now that very last signal is the last signal controlled by the box for here. So what's the next signal the guy's going to see? Right then, what it will be the next distance signal controlled by the next signal box. Confused? Don't be. What it means is, we move the signals closer. So we're moving them closer. We'll get that section signal. So that's the section signal we just passed. The next signal he will come across is the distance for the next signal box, and then he must be prepared to stop at the next stop signal if he's in the caution position. If we put it back the other way, so if we put everything back as it was and then bring in a fresh signal, there we are. So there's another section signal. Let's say it's that one, we'll just move down. If that is the very last signal controlled by the signal box, this end. The very first signal controlled by the box, that end is the distant. And so the block signalling comes in again. Once this section signal has been cleared, that section to here is vacant and he's had the permission by the signalman to go past. So that is absolute block. But let's suppose that the distance between the two signal boxes is very short. Then what? Because I've already said that you must have the distance signal set at the appropriate line speed for a driver to stop at the next stop signal. How do we come across that one? What do we do? The answer is quite simple. I shall show you. We have one of those. So, driver has passed the section signal and the next signal he comes up to is a distant and a home on the same post. This is showing a caution signal. Be prepared to stop at the next stop signal, but there's a stop signal above. So what does he do? Can he go past it? No, he can't, because there's a stop signal there. The distance between the two signal boxes is so small that the two signals are incorporated at once. A good example of this was Old Wellingborough. If you get a chance to look through old photographs on the internet, call up Wellingborough and have a look. Leicester End approaching, and you will see that there is a picture like that. A distant coming up to another distant to a stop. That's very confusing. I'm not going to confuse you anymore with an in-depth explanation on that. But that is possible. So the driver would have to stop here. Bringing it to real life, there's only one place I ever came across this. And that was on the Ramsgate to Ashford line via Canterbury, and it was at Sturry. It's a big, big section between Minster and Sturry. There was an intermediate block section in there called an IBS, which was Chislett Colliery, but that closed down after a very short period of time when I was on the railway, and only lasted, it was only open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the evening, and that was it. After that, once the train passed this signal at Minster, it was a good 7 miles before you saw this at Sturry. And the times I've sat on this signal at Minster waiting for a preceding train to pass this at Sturry, I'd be rich if I had £1 every time that happened. It's a good 10-15 minutes while you're waiting, and believe you me, it's the longest 10-15 minutes of your life. It's terrible. Yeah, so we had this at Sturry, and this was like a gate crossing. There was a level crossing just further up, and the times used to come up to this, and it was a very, very high signal. It was on a bracket, like a junction, and I can remember sometimes the fog being so thick you couldn't see the top of the signal. And I'd literally have to get out the train and climb up the ladder of the signal to see if the signal was pulled off. What I wanted to see was that. I could go then. That's not a problem. And that would take me to Sturry station where that signal is. Sometimes working the fasts from Ramsgate to Canterbury non-stop, you'd slow down approaching Sturry rather, and then you'd see that at Sturry. Brilliant, because that meant the level crossing was closed, that was open, and the section signal was cleared right through to Canterbury West. So this is where signal boxes are very close, but they haven't got the space to put a distant and a stop together, so it's closer. So you're saying, well, what was the difference between Canterbury and Sturry? Because they're quite a distance apart. Yes, there may have been, but there was not the room available to put in a signal to warn for the cautionary and the stop. So they did the 2 in 1, did the same job. We knew it as part of our route learning as drivers, so we weren't going to go whizzing past that expecting that to be caution and going to the next stop signal, because we knew that was the next stop signal. So there we have it, absolute block. One train in one section, on one line, at one time. Please remember, a distant signal cannot stop a train. The only exception to the rule is if it's been blown down in the wind and it's lying across the track. That's the only time a distant signal can stop a train. This is not a distant signal stopping a train. This is a stop signal stopping a train. Okay, I hope that has explained things a bit better for you and that you can understand it a bit more. The next upgrade from that would be track circuit block. And that would be where the signalman knows exactly where the train is because of track circuits on the track. And the driver would know he's on track circuited track because there'd be a little white diamond on each signal post, which would show that signalman knew where you were if you're on his section of track. Last but not least, so what do you do if you should stop on the stop signal? Do you sit there forevermore? The rule book states, used to, you can wait for an unusually long length of time before contacting the signalman. And you are hoping and praying that there is a telephone at that signal, and then you communicate with the signalman. 9 times out of 10 he will say, oh, okay, just wait for a change of aspect, driver, and back you go to your cab. If you pick up the phone and it's ringing and it's ringing and it's ringing and it's ringing and he's not answering, then the long job of walking to the signal box used to be in order, where you'd have to walk to the signal box, ascertain if it was open or not, and if it was, remind the signalman that you are standing at his stop signal. You would then have to sign the train register, he would countersign it, and he would let you know what to do. The other exception could be that you could see the signal at danger, but you could see the signal box a bit further up the line, and you could see a green hand lamp or a green light facing you. That was one of the 16 exceptions when a driver could pass a signal at danger because the signal was giving you permission and you assume it was a signal failure. Only when you pulled up alongside the signal box, the signal would then explain what was going on. You could have a failed train in front, you could have a breakdown, could be anything. But you do not pass that signal unless you get permission from the signalman himself. I shall give you a last case scenario. If you get to the signal box and it's closed and there's nobody there and its lights are on, there's no signalman there, you must then ascertain and make sure that every signal in your area you need is in the off position and that all points are set for your route. Once you're satisfied of that, you can return to the train, speak to the guard and pass this signal at danger under caution until you get to the next signal. Having passed the signal box and ascertained once more there's nobody there, passing that one at danger up to the next signal, and then you must immediately report it to the next signal box or the next available point that you have done so and why. But now we're getting into real serious stuff with signalling. It's not going to happen in model form. Just remember, a distant signal cannot stop a train. This is absolute block, and this is how it operates. I hope you found that useful. The next one I'll hopefully talk about later on will be track circuit block, which I've briefly discussed and how that works. Okay, see you later. Bye.